The idea of creating all the content that a social marketer needs can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to feel that way. Let's break down some of the things that you should consider when developing content for social. The big thing you'll want to do is to think about your overarching content strategy, which should be based on specific social media goals. Content across all the social channels should vary in a few different ways. Ideally, you'll want to optimize your content for each specific channel. To do that, it's helpful to think in terms of campaigns. That way, you're tying every post back to a bigger social goal, with the idea of developing similar related assets to use on different channels without posting identical posts on each channel. As an example, Chiquita Banana did a multi-channel campaign for the 2017 eclipse. It included live videos shared on Facebook, a multitude of videos shared on YouTube, and across other channels, with fun graphical treatments of bananas as eclipses shared in GIFs and images.
I think the type of content that we develop for different channels has everything to do with the audience in those channels, right? So if you remember the memes that really made and were viral a few months ago, where people were posting, right? So how they present themselves on LinkedIn, on Tinder, on Facebook, or on Instagram, right? So that's basically the same approach that we take here, right? So we just tailor the content to the platform that we are engaging because of the way people consume content in those platforms. So it's quite different the way people consume content on Instagram than Twitter, than Facebook, and other channels. So we are really careful to think about the media that we're using first before creating the content. So whatever we create is most relevant and most applicable to that specific channel.
There are several different components to think about when you're developing content: hashtags, text, call to actions, and tagging. Let's begin with hashtags. Did you know that Linchpin SEO found that tweets with hashtags have 2 times more engagement than those without, and 55% more retweets? Hashtags are used across most platforms, but you tend to see them most on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Hashtags are formed simply by using a word with the pound symbol in front of them. They're used to help anyone who does a search on that hashtag to easily find related content. They're sometimes used ironically as well, and as a brand, you can play with that. One thing to keep in mind is that you shouldn't use too many hashtags. You can get away with more than 2 on an Instagram post, but on other platforms, try to limit to 2 or 3 at best.
So hashtags for us matter most on Instagram. It is where you can put the most hashtags, and that's the way that people find your posts. They can, of course, be following you, they can search for you, but it's gonna be a brand new audience who's potentially searching for Boston or Massachusetts. And if we've tagged ourselves in those, we will show up. So that kind of widens our opportunity for new audience members, for new followers. So we really do try to include a lot. There's also some consistent ones that we use as just part of our brand. We always have shop indie, shop local. We always tag our cafe if we're including, businesses that are local and things to do in the Boston area. So for us, it is really important. Of course, on platforms like Twitter, you are kind of limited. Facebook, it doesn't really have the same effect. In that case, it's probably more helpful to look at paid ads to get a bigger audience. But for us, it's just getting our name out there. Our bookstore is only a few years old, so especially for a young company, I think it's important to try and get as wide an audience as you possibly can, and hashtags are really helpful with that.
Jumping on a hashtag bandwagon is a good thing when it comes to trending topics and holidays, but make sure you have content that's relevant. Hijacking an unrelated hashtag to promote your material is spammy. Instead, tie in a product with an event that makes sense. For example, let's say your business is a restaurant. If you know that National Pie Day is trending, you can share content with your audience that highlights the type of pie you make at the restaurant. It's timely, interesting, and makes sense in the context of the hashtag, as well as being relevant to your product. Next, the text you include on your post is important to consider. We have a few tips for using text in posts. Check and double check your spelling. Make sure you are considering your brand's voice and tone. And think about the length of your text. On Twitter, with only 280 characters, you are forced to be brief. But in general, across all the channels, the shorter your message is, the better your chances of that content being seen and reshared. A call to action, or CTA, is one of the most important components of any piece of social content. True, there are times when you may not need one, particularly for awareness campaigns or on channels such as Instagram where links aren't allowed. But in general, you should think about how you can make sure a call to action is included in your content. This could be a link to click through to a blog post, a coupon, or asking your audience to respond in some way. Keep in mind that you need to make the benefit to your followers clear. For example, if you ask them to watch a video, what will they get out of taking that action? Your CTA should use active language. This includes words like download, like, buy, register, subscribe, donate, share, comment, secure, as in secure your spot, and watch. If you can make this call to action time sensitive, that's even better. We're all familiar with these types of phrases because they work. Some examples of time-sensitive phrases include today only, ends at midnight, for the next 24 hours. You'll also want to find ways to make this CTA stand out, either visually within the graphics you choose, or finding ways to highlight the details in your text. Make sure you include a link so you can track the CTA. And finally, tagging is important. If you're resharing content, give credit where it is due. Tag the person who originally wrote it or shared it. Tagging your posts can also be beneficial to help you extend your reach if your content is in conjunction with a partner, customer, or another brand. Just make sure that when you are thinking about tagging private individuals, particularly on Facebook, that you do so with their permission. Additionally, tagging photos on Twitter to merely alert someone about the content is considered spam. Now let's talk about developing the content itself. There are a bunch of possibilities for creating content, including creating it in-house to using a social content or social media agency. When it comes to creating content in-house, there are a number of free or low-cost content creation tools available, which I've listed here. Take a screenshot so you can remember them later. Fortunately, there are also a lot of free photo sites available to content creators, which I've also listed here. And finally, there are the video creation tools that allow you to quickly and easily create video content.
Probably one of the #1 questions I get is like, where do I start? What if I don't have, content? I don't have this crazy slick studio like other big companies have. What I love to remind folks is you probably actually have a lot of great content already. If you look on your website, if you look in your marketing materials, you've already invested in great images, probably great video clips somewhere, and you can really start leveraging that. Even stills, right? Images can be used within video. You can pair images and text to make great videos for social. But the other thing too is honestly, like the camera in your pocket, your phone, these things the camera on these are just as good, if not better, than a lot of professional cameras out there these days. And when you think about, especially for use on the web or use on social, these screens are usually pretty tiny. So we're not blowing this up to a billboard size or showing these in theater. So the phone in your pocket is actually great.
If you're ready to take your content development to the next level, social media agencies are also an option that you can employ to help you do everything from creating and posting content to optimizing your digital social advertising content.